Hey guys, it's Iskamar, and I just had to do it. I couldn't let this one slip by. We're going to be going over the Roll20 versus Ballistix Game 3 match from the HGC Finals, or what I am now dubbing as the Draft of Little Bighorn. The reason I'm calling it that is because if you know anything about U.S. history and Custer and the Battle of Little Bighorn, I think it's a pretty relevant reference to this. Basically, choosing to not go into battle with your big guns and charging into the homeland of thousands of ravenous Indians. A pretty relevant strategic blunder that I think fits this scenario. Who else brings you drafts with people snoring in the background? That's what I bring to you. So if you like this sort of content, if you like drafts, you like analysis, you like snoring, then go ahead and subscribe. And I'm going to keep pumping out this sort of content. But anyways, if you remember the Roll20 team, I ain't trying to throw no shade to you fellas. You played your hearts out in game 1 and 2. You really made it close, and hopefully you take this as a learning experience and do better next year. So now, before we go into the draft, I really want to preface this so I can really get my points across. So when you're looking at drafts and draft strategy, you got to look at drafting as a dance. Drafting is not done in a vacuum, and that's what I feel like Roll20 did here. They already had in their mind, and I'll give points to back this up. They already had in their mind basically what they wanted to run. And they weren't treating it as a dance that you know, it takes two to tango. They weren't dancing with nobody. They were like, no, we ain't doing that dancing shit. We ain't playing with that. They drafted in a really rigid fashion, and they ended up paying for it. Before you get to drafts, I think there's basically like 3 levels of meta coming into this. You have your state of the game, your pre-tourney meta. What's considered meta before you get to a tournament? Then over the course of a tournament, you have your tournament meta that evolves, and the good teams adapt to the tournament meta, and the bad teams fail to adapt, so they fall out earlier, they fall out in the earlier rounds of playoffs. And then you have a 3rd level, which shows its face more in best of 5s, or if HOTS were to have best of 7s, and that's individual team metas or series metas. Like an individual series will sort of develop a meta in certain games. With this, we're not going to be quite getting down to that level. Going into a draft, there's a couple of things that need to be on your mind. First off, it's what do I want for this map? So you already have in mind something that you want. Then it's what is my opponent going to want for this map? And based on the series of picks they make, that picture becomes clearer and clearer. Then you have your prepped adaptations and your backup options, like say they pick this away, or they ban this, or they are starting to build this type of comp. What we can adapt, how we can adapt our picks, still get like the same strategy we want to get across, but do it with different heroes. You have to be ready to adapt to what your opponent is picking. Then if the draft's really not going your way, or there's some picks you weren't quite expecting, you have non-prepped adaptations that you have to make there on the spot in order to save your draft. It's really easy to key in onto the obvious faults with Roll20's draft. And key in on the last pick, Lost Vikings. Don't get me wrong, that was atrocious. It was a very bad pick, and it showed a really rigid drafting mindset. But I think for Roll20, this draft was already starting to unravel way before the Lost Vikings pick. So anyways, I just wanted to preface that. Let's go ahead and hop into this draft.
The thing to point out is that Roll20 picked map 3 times in a row. Yep. And so they basically said to themselves, we don't
Roll20 was giving up first pick in order to pick map. So they're giving away first pick in order to pick the map. That already starts to tell you that they have in mind what they want to draft for Towers of Doom. Based on the way their draft went, they had in mind that they were going to make a Lost Vikings comp.
It's actually dubious. It depends on the meta and the powerful picks that are out there.
So if you look at Balistix Games, Genji Ben, it's very valid.
Well, time to get into
Let's go ahead and skip forward a little bit.
Coming in first, obviously SDE definitely had his
Murden's had a really large presence in the tournament. Okay, So Tassadar Tracer. Listen to what the announcers say real quick.
Well, that Ballistix didn't pick up the Tracer they've been going to.
Don't listen to the snoring. Listen to the announcers.
Game 1 and 2. Now that they've taken Muradin, Roll20 should be very happy with the.
So they're basically saying they're surprised that Ballistix didn't snag the Tracer. That with it being banned Game 1 and 2, that they would have thought that now that it was up, they would have first picked it, but. If you actually go and look at Ballistix drafts, I'm going to pull these up real quick. Here's the drafts that I could find so far for this tournament. Ballistix has not picked Tracer once this entire tournament. And I may be wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like I may be ignorant to a couple things. Maybe some of the Ballistix players like SESC might be known for their Tracer, or it's just Tracer's good on this map. I'm new to the hot scene. But if we're just looking at the patterns that are coming from the tournament, the only chance that Ballistix would have had to have gotten Tracer would have been against Team Expert. Team Expert left it up, but they picked it away from them, and they still ended up losing. So what we see here is that Tracer is not a vital component to Ballistix wins. So I don't get me wrong. I think Tracer's a good pick. And maybe it's a good pick with the Tassadar, but at the same time, I don't know if it's first rotation worthy. And there's more contested picks that we know Ballistix goes to, because if you look at this, there's a repeating pattern with their drafts. A lot of their drafts are pretty similar in what they want, so there's more crucial things to take away than the Tracer.
And camera shots here looks like they certainly are. So. A little bit worrisome.
Is a difficult combination. And Towers of Doom.
Seems to be feared from a damage here. They're just gonna go
so Gray Main Karazhan. Now you're already seeing this draft shape up. Like your Roll20 right now, you already have an idea on where Ballistix is gonna go with this. So let's look at this. We know they like the Karazhan, so that could have been predicted. And look at their priority on Gray Main throughout every series. They have run some Gray Main, including the game they just won. So you have the Genji ban, you have the Tassadar picked. There's only a few things that, according to what they've been running, that you're really gonna see pulled out. They already have the Muradin, and as you can see, they like to play a lot of Dahaka, so we could see the Dahaka coming. And maybe you could say the Zeratul was a shock pick, but other than that, like we already know where their draft is going. So it's really important for these next two picks to not only address what's already there, but what you think is going to be coming. So let's see what Roll20 goes with.
So far, minus the Stormbolt they already picked up with the Muradin. Very difficult to hit a Tracer with that.
The whole thing about this is when I was researching all the different Tracer players, Roll20, it's been several months since they've.
And that's another thing. Roll20 hasn't played it in several months. Yeah, they could have scrimmed with it, but they haven't brought it out on the competitive scene. So I don't know why that was first rotation worthy in their minds.
Deal with a lot of the auto attacks when you get the Earth ally. We see great for Ballistix to try and get that point and click and then try and capitalize.
So they ban the Abathur.
Him coming in phase, I should did, but now he's like fine. Now, if Brightwing comes out,
they're gonna ban away the Rhaegar because they already have the Karazhan.
Roll20 would need when I see move into some extra. It doesn't necessarily play style hero. We'll find
out. Okay. Now we have Stitches Stuko. With this comp, right now, with what we already see and what's possible for Ballistix to pick up, if this is our 4-man, we're looking at something that's pretty low damage overall. Tracer brings a lot of damage. Task brings a little bit of damage, but compared to Ballistix comp and what we can predict that they're in the choices that they have and what they might go with, this is overall pretty low damage. So if you're going with a Lost Viking strat, like already at this point, you're already saying abort. Like we don't have much damage to run the Lost Vikings. They've already got every one of these. Like they say Lost Vikings are good against Karazhan, but if you look, Greymane can already hunt. Lost Vikings. Murden can hop on Lost Vikings, stun them for his other opponents. Karazim can still jump on the Lost Vikings and threaten them. So we're already this is already shaping up to be pretty bad. If you knew you were gonna, no matter what, you wanted to pull out Lost Vikings, you don't go Stitches Stukov here. Probably won't be the strongest 4-man. Depending on these last 2 picks, and like I said, if you look at prior drafts and you already know what the tempo of the tournament is for Ballistix, so you can kind of tell where they might go with this.
So bringing out the Stitches here.
And so with Roll20, you know, their idea is we're gonna hook someone, we're gonna silence them, hit them with bomb, hit them with tasks, and hopefully get a kill. But if you look at the three things that Ballistix has already picked, hook Murden, he's probably gonna survive. Hook Greymane, yeah, you silence him. As soon as he walks out, he might be able to dash away, especially with the assistance of his team. Hook Karazim, as soon as he gets out of Silence Field, he can hop away. Already, these three heroes have a way to deal with getting hooked. So that's why I wouldn't put all my money in the Stitches Stuk combo. Either you get a different tank right here, one that'll prove more valuable, or you don't bank on hook, gorge, silence plays, and you go with more of a kite comp. You should be getting a different healer, and I think that a Uther provides much more value here, and maybe even a Lucio would provide much more value based on what this 4-man is going to be able to achieve and with the escapability of the current 3-man that Ballistix has already drafted.
Your only tank here have a bad time out.
Butchered Bile from the very and hook gorge play. Can we deal with that? Right. Well, most of the heroes have a dash for now.
So there we go, and see, they're already talking about it. They're already talking about hook gorge play. Most players already have a dash. Now we got Dahaka Zeratul. This is a moment to where you cannot be rigid. You are not drafting in a vacuum. This is a dance. A draft is this is already part of the match. You're already fighting in the draft. Your mind has to be saying abort, abort, abort. And I don't know what it was that made this decision. Was it being under the pressure? No, we're just gonna hold to our strat. I don't know who was calling the shots, but this was very rigid drafting. And right now you have Murden. You have Murden, who if he gets hooked, he's gonna be hard to kill. And he can jump on Vikings, and he can snore on them. No, he can jump on Vikings, and he can CC them. You have Greymane, who if we get a hook on him, oh my god. We have Greymane, so if you get a hook on Greymane, he can potentially get away. He can eat the fucking Vikings alive. We have Karazim, he could get away. He can hop on Vikings. Dahaka, he pulls a Viking, he's gonna kill him. He's survivable as fuck. We have Zeratul. Zeratul can blink away, and he will just obliterate the Vikings. We have to get a different 5th pick. We have to abandon this strat. I know we wanted to run it. We picked this map to run this strat, but we have to. And going into this is what I'm talking about is drafting as a dance. You already have to have prepped adaptations. If this, then this. If this, then this. If they go all out, you have to already think, maybe they see where we want to go with this and they pick a comp that we can't run Vikings into. If they do that, then we're gonna go with something different. We're gonna go with this. We can still get sort of the same effect here, or we can pivot our strategy this way with this hero. You don't double down and still pick the same character. So Vikings, yes. So now before we get into the actual match itself, this is where your post-draft strategy comes in. You already have what you have. You have your Vikings. We locked it in. We doubled down. We have to make the most of it. So going into a game, you have your macro win conditions and you have your micro win conditions. Your macro win conditions is how do we play on this map? What does our comp do on this map to get a win versus the enemy comp. And then your micro win conditions is at objection contests, at fights. How does our comp interact? How do we best their comp to get across our macro strategy? So some macro win conditions for Roll20 would be soak of Vikings, limit Viking deaths as much as possible. Look, they drafted a hunting comp for the Vikings, so we're gonna need to dangle the Vikings as bait. We don't want them over dying, but we're gonna let them be the bait. Let them focus on killing the Vikings. We're gonna make shit happen with our 4-man. For Ballistix, we're gonna cut the XP advantage of the Vikings by hunting them, and we're gonna bully the weaker 4-man, and we're gonna also force some 5v4 situations. We get a pick on some of the Vikings. We're gonna force a 5v4. As far as micro strategy goes. So this is how your 4-man executes your macro strategy, and what builds will facilitate this. One major question that already should have been going on in draft, but this is no longer draft. This is what are we going to do to go forward is, are there any good hook targets? Is there really any good hook targets? And we've already gone over that. There really isn't. So a pick-based build isn't really going to be what we're going to want to go for. We're not going to want to go for the Gorge. We're not going to want to go for the extra tinky stitches that just picks targets and then we kill someone, because they all have methods of getting away, and they're pretty durable as a comp. And so if you look at what Ballistix wants to do, Ballistix has a lot of dive. They have a lot of dive, a lot of damage. And they're also pretty durable. They're all pretty survivable. There's not really any good hook targets. They have a lot of damage. They have a lot of dive. They're going to be going in skirmishes. They're going to be going deep on Roll20. So if you look at Roll20, their main damage is Tracer. Other than that, you have TAS. We have to make up for this somehow. We need Stitches to run some slam traits so that he can bring some damage. And we need to abort the whole pick synergy that we were wanting to do with Hook and Silence, because each one of these members can get away, and most of them are pretty durable too. So that's not going to work. So what that means is when it comes to ultimates, we need to adapt our strategy. We need to abandon Gorge and go with the Putrid Bile. So Vikings already died. 20 seconds of the game. Here we go. So he already got a hook, and this is where we see, okay, we got a hook, so what? So what? Did nothing there. And I'm going to be skipping through the match a bit. Like, I've already cut it because if I broke down the whole game, I mean, it'd just be beating a dead horse, plus we'd be here for 1,000 years, and you don't want to hear that much snoring. You know, a little bit of snoring is good, but it's not that much. So look, here we go. We got a skirmish right here. This is exactly, we're seeing the strengths of the Roll20. I mean, of the Ballistix comp. They're diving deep. This is where I said a mobile healer would have been better, because they have really good swarm. They can swarm the back line really strong with all these durable mobile all these durable mobile heroes, and they have a lot of damage. So Stukov wasn't really the best healer. If they had a Lucio for some speed, or if they had a Uther, he could have at least brought some CC. But Stukov gets overwhelmed, so there we go. We're already starting to see what these skirmishes will be like. And another thing is, with Stitches, so Stitches, he's already going tank build. You can already see that he's going to go tank build. They're still going to hold down until we're going to get some, how we're going to win this is we're going to get some picks, and we're going to turn those into kills. What you're seeing right here is another problem with this comp. All your wave clear falls on the Tassadar. If you bring Slam with Stitches, he can help out a little bit with the wave clear. I mean, you're going to see, look how slow they took that camp with more people there. Ballistix takes this camp faster than Roll20 does later in the game. So we had a failed hook. Okay, there's a lost Vikings death. So let's look at this. We have 3 spawn. At this point in the game, we know that at this point in the game, we got to be doing something with our 4-man, and by putting yourself by focusing on the side of the map with only the 1 spawn, you should know you're going to forfeit these 2, and you don't want to go send a Viking over, because Zeratul, that's exactly what Zeratul wants. Like, that's just free candy for him. So that's just free candy for him. And you know, that reminds me of something. There's a lot of people that were saying that, oh, you know, NA, the only reason they were able to take a game off them was through some cheese. Roll20 is known for some cheese, so they were pulling out cheese with this game. This is not an example of cheese. This is, you know what? The only kind of cheese this is, here's some fucking tasty cheese for Zeratul. Here's some tasty cheese for Dahaka to eat. Are you hungry, Dahaka? Are you hungry, Dahaka? Are you hungry, Greymane? Would y'all like to eat some cheese? Because this is not a cheese strat. This is anti-cheese. This is them handing cheese on a platter to the Koreans saying, beat us. Please beat us. So this is definitely not a cheese strat. But anyways, you're forfeiting these. You don't want to send your Vikings. If you're down here, you need to make something happen down here, and you need to try to safely farm with your Vikings. That's it. We need to be pressuring objectives with our 4-man, so whether it's towers or whether it's forts, we need to be pressuring them and pulling them into us. If they are going to focus on the Vikings, then we're going to force down structures. If they're going to fight us, we are going to kite back. That is all the more reason why you need slam stitches coming out here. This build is not very, this build is more about just surviving and getting those picks, whereas with slam stitches, we're not going to overextend for these picks. We're going to move back. I'm going to be putting out as much damage as possible, helping out my Tracer. Tracer can kite back. If we get Stukov in a good position, he can play safe, and Tass is not a very good target for them. So we're just going to kite back and pull them into us and hope to force some overextending.
It's going to be a very tough moment there.
So another Viking death. That one's kind of hard to prevent. You know, he wasn't in a very compromised position, but oh, another one. So here we go. Let's look at this. So we see them coming. Our Stitches is the first to run back. This is miscommunication right here. So Stitches wanted to pull back so he can hopefully get a pick back here and get a kill. But he's leaving his healer. There's no other bruiser. He's leaving his Stukov and Tass as the front line. And that's just easy pickings. That pick does nothing. You already know your picks aren't going to do anything. You don't leave your healer so you can get some opportunistic pick. You're already serving your healer up on a platter. Look at now. This is meanwhile their wave clear is far. The time it takes them to get camps is way faster. Okay, so now here we go. We're gonna get a pick right here. I'm gonna move forward and get a pick. Don't land the hook. That wasn't one of the worst hooks. You can't blame him there. But here we go. Because we're in a compromised position, looking for a pick. We are looking for a pick. We are spread. Look at the spread here. Look at how large this spread is. This is an assassin's dream. This is a Dahaka's dream. I want you to be spread so I can pick one of your squishies. But you're over here extending and stretching your battle lines in order to get a pick on someone who's probably going to just dash away. This is poor execution on what your comp needs to be doing. Okay, so yeah, I recognize tower's up, but we don't need to necessarily go with the tower. Let's stay together. Let's wave clear. Let's wave clear, push the wave, force them to come into us, and then we're gonna do what we do. Then we're gonna kite back and hope. Then we're gonna kite back and put out as much damage as we can and hope for one of these assassins or melees to overextend a little. We are not going for outright kills. We are going to whittle them down over time. We will keep pushing the waves. We won't let you get the tower. Try to get try to get the tower, and we'll interrupt it with Stuko for Stitches, but we're gonna force you to come to us. Again, slow camp take, very slow camp take.
Heroics are almost here, so we'll see if that is the case. Hooks have not really been doing much for Roll20, and they have had to back off and continually just give and give.
There's no major level advantage. They're just already getting bullied off without even a significant level advantage and disadvantage. And your Vikings aren't paying off. You're not getting any of the XP advantage that you'd like to have, any early game advantage. So here we go. Stitch is way out away from his team once again. Same thing, but this time, you know what? Stitches, we can just kill you. We have a lot of damage. We have a lot of sustained DPS. We have burst. We can just kill you, and we can void prison your team. So look, let's go back. Let's go back. Towers are up. Now this is with the same draft. Let's not even, like, we're past draft. We're not gonna go with draft errors anymore. We have this. We have this, and so this is a matter of post draft strategy. What are our win conditions, and how are our builds gonna facilitate this? This Gorge build is not going to facilitate this. We've already gone over this Gorge build is not going to facilitate this. Everyone can get away from you. If we have Putrid Bile right here, if we choose to go, if we adapt our strategy, we have Putrid Bile, we clear these waves and force the enemy to come into us, then Stitches pops Putrid Bile. Stuko stays back near the base so that he can try to silence any melees coming in. Tass is shielding and doing his thing, doing his damage. Tracer is pretty much unkillable for them. While in this kiting strat, she's just going to be blinking away, being annoying. Whereas Stitches is laying the Putrid Bile. All these melees are having to run through the Putrid Bile. So even if we don't get the kills, we're gonna whittle them down. Okay. And we're just going to keep them from getting these objectives. And we're going to keep pushing these waves and being annoying. But instead, I'm over here having to overextend for picks, which still shouldn't be doing that, even with his current build. This is why the Lost Vikings wasn't even... Lost Vikings wasn't the Lost Vikings wasn't the only bad thing here. The Lost Vikings was the icing on the cake to an already bad draft. But even with that draft, the builds, the execution was far off too. Okay, so you already have a couple of your teams. You already have a couple of team members die. Why are you trying to come and get a tower point? They have a team that's built on hunting you. Fuck the tower right now. It's gonna suck to lose one right now. It's gonna suck to lose another one, but we need to just get some EXP and catch up. Let's farm. They're gonna go for the tower take. We have vision of them right now. Let's go ahead and just get some EXP, some safe EXP, and maybe you have the threat of losing one Viking, but at least you're getting some push. You're getting some EXP. But instead you take 2 down to get a tower that you know they're not going to let you have, and you die with 2. Stop the fighting right now. Just stop these little skirmishes right here. And these hooks, like, look, I'm not familiar with the hot scene. I don't know how good Justin is as a player. I don't want to hate on him, but these hooks are just thrown out at such bad times. Like, look, I know you're going against pro Koreans. You're going against really good players, so you expect them to dodge. But these aren't even matters of throwing hooks that are close that are getting dodged. These hooks are just out in outer space. So everything that could go wrong execution-wise is going wrong, as well as having a bad comp. You're already having to fight an uphill battle, and you're not executing your builds. You're not executing your skills. Everything is going wrong, and that's why this game ends up being such a freaking stomp. So another thing with their, like I said, with their 4-man, they should be pressuring objectives. So from the early, before this big EXP disadvantage happened, they should have been pressuring forts. Maybe they should have even, once bot lane wasn't going so well for them, they should have looked to go to the mid lane to where they could choose to contest the areas that had more towers whenever they popped up. Plus, they could just get this pressure on the mid wave, and it doesn't leave two quick lanes for the assassins to go and hunt the Vikings. But you have a full comp that's based on killing your Vikings. When you put your 4-man bot and you leave your Vikings mid and top, it's leaving a quick roam for your Zeratul can make that roam really quick. He can just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, hunting the Vikings with Dahaka. But if you go in the mid lane, now it takes a little bit more time. So you're not quite keeping them from dying, cutting down the amount of times they could die in a shorter span of time. So that's one adaptation that could have been made, is they could have came and just pressured mid wave as a 4-man.
That even hasn't been going to plan for Roll20, and that's because Roll20 can't stall out any of the altar phases. They lose someone earlier on, they're not able to get the isolation right. Roll20 knows that.
So now we're in their face, we're pressuring, and it's not a bad spread at the moment. Now Stitches is getting a little far. We're going for picks, and here comes the flanking. We can come and fuck up your backline, or we could even just focus you, Stitches. Dahaka is taking up. So as soon as we've basically, what I would like to call a strategy that they should be running is like, I mean, it's a kite comp, should be a kite comp or a pool comp, and I don't mean pools and hooks, but we want to pool our enemies, we want to pull their attention to us. So we see that we got their attention, they're coming, we can only imagine they have a stealth. At this level of play, you should know their stealth probably, if he's not hunting a Viking, he's and they're coming, they're obviously coming forward. They're either bluffing or their stealth is flanking, and they're going to try to kill us. We've already achieved what we want to achieve here, so let's start pulling back quickly. Let's pull back with Reckless Abandon, because this is exactly what we want. We're going to pull them into us. We're going to have Putrid Bile instead. We're going to have Slam Stitches, who I don't know, he doesn't have the trait to slow at this point in the game, I don't think. No, he doesn't. But we're gonna be kiting. Stitches is gonna be getting out some slam damage, and we're gonna be leaving pools and shielding, and Tracer's just gonna be annoying, and we're gonna pull them back to our base to safety. And maybe we'll get a good hook, and we won't necessarily kill that person, but we're gonna threaten them and push them back. Now instead, Viking dies. We're overextended past the midline too long. We get void prisoned, and this happens.
23 seconds away from another altar phase. How many shots though? Are they comfortable with this, or would they...
Now at this point in the game, your Vikings failed to give you what you needed. It's pretty much like there's criticism at this point is kind of a waste of time, because they're so far behind at this point. I mean, is it unwinnable? No. Could they make some adjustments at this point? Yes, but they've already, as a composition, they've already failed to get the win conditions that they wanted to get. Now watch this. This is where they don't get the most ideal target, but they get the perfect combo that they would want to execute. This is what they wanted to execute with this combo. They got the hook on a target. They got the silence down. They get the Tracer bomb on them. Cool. Good job. That was some cool stuff you did to me. And maybe if that were Zeratul or Kara or Greymane, they might have died. But at the same time, they could have dashed away. They could have had a teammate come and it just still wouldn't be a sure kill. Which, if your full combo isn't a sure kill, then that's a big problem.
And it will be stopped with just the one shot as mid is taken. Another Viking goes down, but that's the least of Roll20's concerns. There are shots here from the sappers.
And so here we go again. You're gonna see this. We don't need to get your backline, Stitches. We'll just kill you. And that's the pigeonhole that they had in needing to get picks with stitches. Needing to get picks with stitches. Yeah, so we're not going to beat a dead horse, and I'm not going to make you go and listen to these snores much longer. They're climbing to insane levels. But anyways, I just want to wrap this video up. So I think this can lead into another point. Do we see a change? And I don't know how the competitive scene works. Are the teams allowed to have coaches on stage? From what I've seen, they don't have any coaches on stage. This is an adaptation that we might need to see in Heroes if it's currently not allowed, that we saw in League. Do we want strategic coaches being on the stage to help with drafts, because to try and limit situations like this from happening? You know, from what I've heard, I guess Roll20 is known for having good drafts, so you shouldn't have seen something like this happen. But this draft, this game, if there's any examples of over and draft, this is one of those games. They refused to look at draft as a dance. They were drafting in a vacuum. They were really rigid. They refused to adapt. This is why adaptation is so important, and this is one thing the Koreans have showed in other MOBAs or in League of Legends. They have showed to have a superior grasp on is adaptation throughout the tournament. They don't necessarily always bring the innovations, but what they will do is they will do a great job of, after the first week of play, they will adapt, they will change their strats, they'll pick up what's been strong from other teams, from other regions, and they will adapt within a series. This was a moment in which Roll20, they won the first game with a straight up draft. You can try to call it cheese, maybe, but still a straightforward draft. Their second match, they played pretty standard, and they gave Ballistix a run for their money. You don't have to do anything super creative or crazy here in game 3. Just play standard, or if you do want to try to pull something off with this, you have to go in with the mindset that if it doesn't go the way we want it, we are going to adapt, and we're going to pick something different. We have to have a different pick prep. And so this is something that Roll20, that if they keep the same lineup, they could look to improve, or if Blizzard begins to allow strategic coaches, this is a good example of why for a better game quality, we might want to see coaches come in and help the players draft, because then it adds another strategical depth for the coaching position. And this is something that I hope that the NA region improves on overall, is looking at drafting as a whole and seeing all the different parts of drafting. It isn't just we want to run this comp. It's about what you want, it's about what your opponent wants, and it's a push and pull. And so that was the draft of Little Bighorn, and hopefully in the future NA we won't make big mistakes like that in a crucial game in which you actually had a great chance to advance. You could have advanced to semis, and who knows, maybe even finals. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm gonna be doing more content like this for HOTS. I hope to bring another flavor to the community. So take care.